Hello and welcome back to the Punchers Chant podcast, and welcome back to the preview show where we have a look at everything coming up in boxing within the next week. This week, that is of course Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen to the rematch. Obviously a draw, controversially the first time. And as always, there's plenty to talk about in boxing. Martin Bakole, Moses Itauma possibly, a big fight coming out of the Queensberry stable, and a certain retired boxer stepped back into the rankings, which I'm sure you know who it is, but if not, we'll get onto that towards the end. Subscribe if you haven't already for podcasts twice a week, or follow us on Spotify if you prefer the audio versions. Other than that, straight in to the action. We won't start with you because I know you're just raring to go. We'll keep you waiting. Ben, Johnny Fisher, Dave Allen, what are we making of it?
It's exciting, isn't it? Fisher, I feel like Fisher's been a bit... Well, he's not a massive talker anyway, but I feel like I've seen more of Dave Allen in the build-up to this. And he's obviously talking and doing are two different things, but Allen thinks, as Fisher does, they're both going to get the stoppage, so...
I've just realised or remembered, I said it was a draw. It wasn't.
It was a Fisher
Johnny
win.
Fisher won that fight. I thought it would. A draw
Gareth
would have
A.
been.
Davis in disguise.
Well,
You calling it a clear robbery?
that wasn't a clear robbery,
Come
but it
on
was a
now.
bit harsh.
I think it was close. I had it 5 rounds apiece.
With
but
the
I
knockdown.
had Dave Allen winning because of the knockdown.
Yeah.
But
And you had it the same. Let's not pretend otherwise.
Like I said, I am Johnny Fisher's biggest fan, but with that knockdown, yeah, Allen was winning the fight. But I'll go back to when Ben was saying about Johnny Fisher being a little bit quieter. I think this might be the first time Fisher's actually, apart from when he's been in Vegas, he's actually gone away for a fight in the UK and he's gone abroad to prepare himself for it, going obviously to the Canary Islands to, get away from it, get away from the noise. Because, after that fight, when you turned on whatever channel you were watching, TalkSport, all the other YouTube channels, everyone was calling it a robbery and all that. I don't think it was a robbery because it's 5-5. The knockdowns, it's 1 round. That's not a robbery.
I think the problem...
A robbery is if Johnny Fisher won that 7-3 or something like that.
Yeah, but I think the problem is, with the way the fight went, the rounds that were won by each fighter were almost unequivocally won by each fighter. Johnny Fisher won the first 4 rounds without a doubt. No questions asked at all. He definitely won those 4 rounds.
And 10.
And then the next 5 rounds, Dave Allen unequivocally won those next 5 rounds. No argument. No one ever thinks he won any other rounds. With the knockdown, that makes it 6-4. And then Johnny Fisher, a lot of people have him winning the 10th. Some people have it whatever. But if you say he won the 10th, then at best, it was a 6-5. But now, I'm not throwing a stink about it. It's fine. It's only a point the other, or a point or two the other way. But it was a very easy decision to make. And I think the reason people get fed up with it, because Dave Allen should have won the first title of his career. Johnny Fisher's a great ticket seller. He's an exciting fighter, up and coming. But he did lose that fight, and there's nothing wrong with having a 1 on your record. But it certainly feels like that 1 was protected.
But do you think it was an overreaction from the likes of Gareth A. Davis and Spencer Oliver? The way they reacted and saying it's a disgrace and all that.
It's not a disgrace.
No.
It's not a disgrace, but it is a shame.
It is a shame because I that's the worst thing about boxing. You can get 2 likeable characters take on each other, and it's the same with this fight. You don't want either man to lose, but someone has to lose. And I do think this fight on Saturday night, we don't see the 10th round. I think someone's getting knocked out in it. And this is a big test for Johnny Fisher again, because we were talking before. Is this the right call by Eddie Hearn, by his team, to go straight into the rematch? Or shouldn't they have gone, right, okay, we were lucky that night. We're going to take you back to the copper box, or copper bosh as they call it. You're going to fight someone that you're going to get through in 5 rounds, let's say, and then you're going to fight Dave Allen again.
But we've seen the same with Ben Whittaker, didn't we?
True.
With Liam Cameron, he went straight back in there for the rematch. People thought, is it the right move? Blitzed him out there in a round.
Wardley Clark,
Yeah, could
dead
be.
close first fight. Absolutely smashed him in the second.
And I think the sort of controversy around that first fight is because you could just see from the reaction, I think, at the end of that first fight, Fisher had a look of, right, I've been beaten there. Dave Allen was certain that he was getting the result. So I think it was just a built-up moment of frustration from a lot of people who maybe just looked around and thought Fisher's been protected because he's a cash cow for Matchroom. Like Fisher realistically is probably British title level
100%,
at best, and like there's no shame in that. Like many fighters will never even get close to a British title, and when you look at these two fighters, realistically in terms of their career, Alan should have been a really tough test for Fisher because Alan had a short but quite successful amateur background. Could have joined Team GB and decided not to. He's been in loads of wars. Some he's won, some he hasn't. And probably hasn't looked after himself in his pro career as much as he should have. And probably has underperformed to the level that he probably should have done. So there's no sort of thinking back. It's easier to say in hindsight, but no surprise really that it was a tough test. But Fisher's better prepared now for this. He's gone through 10 rounds with him. And one thing that is really impressive, like you said, he won the first 4 rounds, got battered pretty much for the next 5, but that 10th round when he really needed to, he dug in and he still showed he had something about him.
He gave the judges a decision to make by winning that 10th round, didn't he? He gave himself a puncher's chance.
Yeah, and that knockdown, when did that come? 7th, 8th round?
5th round.
5th round, even earlier. It could have been, that moment could have been, oh, fuck, I'm in trouble. And then you really sink or swim and you panic.
Yeah, well, we watched it just earlier, and he gets thrown to the ground by Dave Allen later in that round when he's really wobbled. And while the ref's pushing Dave back to the corner, he just stays on his knee, takes probably 10-15 seconds just to collect himself.
Good composure.
And like we sort of said with the Inoue, that is the clarity of thought in that moment to have that as the thing is.
It is good.
It's good. It's good signs. I think to go back to what you said about them taking this so quickly, you like Ben sort of said there, you can take it on the flip side of, yes, you can say they got lucky in this one, but actually they got caught with a really good shot in the 5th round and it changed the entire course of the fight. On another day, if that right hand doesn't catch quite as clean, you could have been looking at a 10-0 shutout, for example. And then
the heavyweights, it could happen to anyone. We've seen plenty of fighters in that division who are probably, you've seen it years.
Andy Ruiz, AJ.
Yeah. Like,
I think is the clear one.
That big shot lands and it can just completely change a fight.
Because Johnny Fisher was investing heavily in the body. He landed some brilliant shots on Dave Allen in those first 4 rounds, and there's a lot of fighters that would have taken a much bigger dent out of than it did on Dave Allen. And like we saw with AJ Ruiz, AJ landed some shots on Ruiz that night that on most other days against most other fighters, you're getting your hand raised with a clean knockout in the 5th, 6th, 7th round and you're laughing. But instead, a tough, durable fighter rode those fights, landed that one big shot, and it changed the course of the heavyweight division for the next 5-6 years. And I don't think this fight's going to have that effect. But Johnny Fisher's probably thinking, and his team are probably thinking, yeah, we got away with the decision, but actually we were unlucky to be in the state we were. If we just do the same again, but better, slightly better, then he could very easily walk away with this fight.
I watched a lot of the build-up as well to this rematch, and it was quite interesting when they did like a sort of like face-to-face style video. Apparently when they were in the clinch, Dave Allen said break, and Johnny Fisher stepped away, and then that's where Dave Allen caught him. And I think there's a change of mindset in this camp for Johnny Fisher where he's going, well, I have no respect for you now. I'm coming to batter you in a way. And what I can't believe is when you're in a ring, you have to have that mindset. The person opposite you, you need to beat them up. And for Johnny Fisher to admit that he listened to his opponent perhaps shows a little bit of a lack of experience in a way. And yeah, we're in a sport of, it is a gentleman's sport, but we're in a sport where a punch can turn your lights out and you need to be ready at all times. And I think that's where Dave Allen used his experience a little bit. And he said he was talking him through the fight and all, and you can see that and everything. But this time around, I just see a completely different style of fight. I think Johnny Fisher's has learned a lot from that, and I think he's learned that he can take a lot of punishment.
He did show a good chin, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. And he can take a good shot and come back. And, he might have 1 or 2 rounds where you're on the edge of your seat with Dave Allen's putting the pressure on you. But I think Johnny Fisher, as Dave Allen openly admitted as well, he's a better athlete than him. Perhaps not a better boxer, but something that a lot of heavyweights have is they haven't got the best boxing IQ, but they can punch. And in the heavyweight division, that's something that you need. If you can't, if you're a top heavyweight and you can't punch, then you're not going to reach the limits of the top of the sport. And yeah, that's where my concern is for Dave Allen in this fight is if Johnny Fisher lands clean on him, can he take it? And we've seen it so many times in the past. You know, I go back to when he fought Luis Ortiz. He lost that via stoppage. You know, David Price and Fraser Clark. I don't want to say he quit, but he retired. He got pulled out of it in the corner, which is fair enough. 2 top-class fighters in Britain. Against this fight against Johnny Fisher, it can go one of 2 ways. Johnny Fisher early, or Dave Allen gets through that 4 rounds, which he did in Riyadh, and it's Dave Allen's fight then from 4 to
I disagree.
10.
I think we'll get onto our predictions obviously at the end, but I don't think...
I think the only way Johnny Fisher...
I disagree. I think Johnny Fisher, if he hadn't been stopped in that 5th round, or if he hadn't been dropped, in that 5th round, he wins the 5th round, he wins the 6th round, and he probably wins a comfortable decision on that night. I think it's when that big shot came. If that big shot had come in the 8th or the 9th, I think he'd have won most of those rounds.
I think this goes to a decision.
So do I. And we'll get on to our predictions. And you know what, we'll hold it off for after that because we can have a little kind of post-thought.
That's where I leave the predictions.
There's 3 middleweight fights on the undercard of this one. Kieran Conway versus Jerome Warburton for the British title and the Commonwealth.
Yep.
Great fight. George Liddard versus Aaron Sutton as a British title eliminator. So we'll step up and fight the winner of Kieran Conway and Jerome Warburton, you'd imagine. Great fight. And then Jimmy Sains fighting for his first title in the southern area. Another great fight.
Is Jimmy Sains, he's got 100% knockout rate, hasn't he? If I'm right. 9 wins, 9 knockouts.
I think it's 8. I don't think it's 9 knockouts. He has... Oh, he does have 9, you're right. Yeah.
Someone knows glove.
Knows glove, yeah.
It's great to see that he's getting an opportunity. But that Conway-Warburton fight, again, we're a Welsh boxing podcast. It's great to see a Welsh boxer get this opportunity on a massive stage. And yeah, it's for me, it's like for Jerome Warburton, he's probably thinking to himself, finally, about time I've been given a massive opportunity, because his sort of last fight he had was on like a Channel 5 card with Wasserman, and then he went on a Box Nation card in Liverpool and was hidden.
Well, it was Sutton he beat for the British title eliminator originally, wasn't
Bristol,
it? In Bristol.
In the galleries. But
a year or two back.
Conway, he's coming off... he went to Japan, if I remember.
Beat Ryan Kelly, I think, in his last fight.
That was in Birmingham. But he went to Japan and was in that prize fighter tournament, which... I don't know what's happened with that, to be honest. I mean, they've just put that to one side and thought, that wasn't a good idea. But no, it's a really good fight. You look at this card and that's a 50-50. You know, I think for Jerome Warburton, he's going to be full of confidence going into it and not a lot of pressure on him, because he's probably thinking, well, this is my sort of coming out show. This is where I show people what I'm all about, because it's on DAZN worldwide. People can watch it. Kieran Conway, on the other hand, is probably wanting to get back to the level of pushing on for a world title and all. And, you know, he's had a great career, you know, 22 wins, only 3 defeats. But again, I go back to an example of like fighters that take fights, and the one I look at is Conor Walker. You know, Conor Walker, he never says no to a fight, and he's always in a good fight. And I think that's what we're going to have here, because both men are at that stage in their career where they have to take that next step up if they want to reach any sort of their dreams. And it's great to see. And yeah,
it's a British title fight. Yeah. It's going to be a good fight. They always are.
Oh, don't.
No. That's not jinxing it, because all British title fights.
Yeah, we didn't say it for the Fisher Allen fight.
Exactly.
I was going to say, so Matchroom was stacked with middleweights.
Absolutely, yeah. Those 3. You know, George Liddard. You know, it's a good opportunity for Aaron Sutton, of course, but George Liddard is a good fighter. Jimmy Sains again out of that Matchroom gym with Tony Sims.
Have we seen Aaron Sutton at the Vale? Was he?
We did watch him for a fight, yeah. He done all right. I think he got a decision victory on that one. But, you know, both those guys coming out of Tony Sims and Matchroom Gym are both quality fighters. You've had the pleasure of seeing both of them down at
Sains
top
and Liddard are brilliant. And I think it'll be a case for them to... They're not going to want them to obviously meet in at any point. So
no.
It'll be putting them down...
Liddard's sort of 2 fights ahead, isn't he? So I think the idea is he can...
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. So he can win this title eliminator, fight for a British title next, at which point Jimmy Sains is fighting for a British title eliminator, and then Liddard fights for something above a British title while Jimmy Sains fights for his vacated, and they kind of follow each other
I'm
up.
just thinking further down the line, if they, I don't know how far they expect them to go, but if they push in world title level, it's a case of, right, you go down the IBF route, you go down WBC route, and just steer clear
probably,
until you've both got a world title or one of you fall off, sort of thing.
I think it is, and do you know what, these I like these guys' fights because they kind of come with that. There's that second generation of matchroom fighters. We had that one set of the Conor Benn, Joe Cordina, Craig Richards coming through, and then obviously there was the issues with Conor Benn and the adverse findings and whatnot, and then now you've got kind of this next generation coming up through that, you know, as long as they're not having scrambled eggs for breakfast, should have, you know, exciting
Taylor
careers
Bevan on there
ahead of them. That's the one. Those two at the bottom, Taylor Bevan and Leli Buttigieg,
Which
both
one
great
was-
fighters.
Who put Taylor Bevan as their prospect of the year? One of us did, didn't we?
One of us did. I can't remember who went for it in the end. But yeah, I put him on my top 5 British prospects to watch for the year that I wrote earlier in the year.
You know Glove. So
In some pretty good
What
company.
class are they both fighting in?
Taylor Bevan's super middle, isn't he? And then middleweight again for Leli Buttigieg. Another fighter we've both seen down at top tier as well on a loan deal.
Was he a main event down there?
He was, and he looked the dog's bollocks. He looked a step above. He really did look a cut above the other fighters on that card, and that's not a bad word towards the other fighters on a top tier card because they're all great fighters, but you could tell he's that cut above. And the same with Taylor Bevan. When you watch him fight, you think, yeah, this guy is.
He gets you excited, don't
This
you?
guy is proper.
We're crying out for a show in Wales, and obviously, look, he's still having his sort of getting used to the pro ranks, but we're literally a stone's throw away from the Motor Point Arena. We can literally see the roof of it.
Yeah.
That boy could be main eventing there in a couple of years' time.
I think that's the cinema I can see. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's going to be he's
going to be a massive. I don't know what he's like with ticket sellers, but he can be a massive name in Welsh
I think he's got good support down from Southampton, doesn't he? Because he's based that way. And I think he does have really good support from there. So, well, certainly when he's fought kind of early on in cards.
Let's hope he fights in Cardiff, though, instead of Southampton. But no, listen, this card on Saturday night, apart from the main event where I'm probably going to be watching it through my fingers, behind my... Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And the thing is about the talking of, you know, Queensberry having better cards than Matchroom having better cards than Queensberry, blah, blah, blah. With them both on the zone now, they're all competing on. Who cares? This card is the same level of decent fights in a way, in my opinion, to last weekend's fight card.
I'd actually
there's still this
lower level,
the same narrative.
I'd say lower level, slightly in terms of the types of fighters on it, but a better card. I'd argue. I think there's more 50-50.
I think there's
better.
tougher calls on this card.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note,
predictions.
Now, I'm sure they can't tell, or they will be able to tell because you're going to be nice and quick. You've already locked yours in. You're
well,
for the sake of the viewers.
I'll tell them why.
Yeah, you do that.
I always get picked on for taking my sweet time with my.
I always get picked on.
With my I get bullied.
Generally
bullied in the workplace.
Basically, I always get picked on, and so
So I make my predictions early. So when these boys are there, I can say it straight away. And
there's going to be no ums from me. I promise you that. We all loaded up. First fight: John Hedges versus Nathan Callers. We didn't actually mention this one. Nathan Callers obviously fought with Al Riley for the English.
John
Hedges,
distance as well.
A good fighter. And based off of that, I'm going to go for a John Hedges points decision.
Same here.
3 for 3.
Lovely stuff. Jimmy Sains versus Gideon Onyenani. This one's the Southern Area title, isn't it? For Jimmy Sains, what's your prediction for that one, Benjamin?
Sains stoppage. 10 out of 10, I think.
Yeah, that's the same with me. 10 out of 10.
I'm actually going to go for a Sains points decision on that one. I think Gideon, I've got very little to base this off of. I think he's going to be a tough bugger.
Where's he from?
Britain?
Yeah, where in Britain?
The Southern Area, I believe.
I think that's why
It's quite a big area.
Let's have a look. He is from Chatham, Kent.
Oh.
Same as Moses Itauma. Oof. Could be a problem.
Glove.
George Liddard, Aaron Sutton, middleweight 10-rounder, Harry.
Liddard by decision.
Ooh, I've gone Liddard by stoppage.
I'm going to go Liddard decision.
And then Kieran Conway versus Jerome Warburton, middleweight 12-rounder. I'm going to go for a Conway stoppage.
Ooh, you are. Conway decision, but very close.
I've gone Conway decision as well.
Close or not close?
I think it'd be 116, 112.
And then to round it up, Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. I've timed this nicely.
No one cares about your lot.
What are you going for in this one?
Oh, what? I'm not even going first.
No.
Wow.
I'm starting off, am I?
Yeah.
Is it 10 rounds?
Yep.
Yeah, 10 rounds. I think it'll be another war. I think Fisher will win 6 rounds to 4.
What about you, Harry?
Fisher stoppage within 6 rounds.
I've gone for a Fisher points decision as well. I think it's going to be a similar feel to the first fight, but I think his early period of dominance is going to last longer
How many rounds?
than it did in the first fight. 10 rounds.
No, but how many rounds overall?
7-3.
Okay. What about the
it's gonna
fight
be-
night now as well for you? How many rounds?
I've gone 37.
37. I've gone
Yeah.
46.
So I just turned a 7-3 backwards, made 3-7, 37. Illuminati and all that. Anyway, big fights coming
that
up
coffee
that we
you had?
mentioned. Oh,
You
God
should-
knows.
you
It's,
can't be
the,
having
it's the
coffee.
drive on the way here that's drove me loopy, and the prospects of what's coming on in about an hour for me. Martin Bakole versus Moses
fight deal.
Itauma. They've been talking about that as a
Yes.
fight. They say Itoma's ready. I think Itoma's probably ready, but is Martin Bakole ready? Is that nutritionist going to be able to do enough work in a short period of time?
He's
He's only now in the gym.
He's no
in
longer
his
on.
vegetarian diet.
What did
Yeah.
you say about Martin Bakole? He's a man that's got everything he ever wanted in
I think
life.
that was you.
Was it me?
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something I would say.
It did sound like
The thing
something
is,
you
when he
would say.
fought Jared Anderson, he was 20 pounds lighter than that last fight. Looked quite good. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be the fighter that is going to have an amazing engine, but
He's got quite an impressive engine for his size.
yeah,
I've
just-
never seen a 300-pound man put the pressure on quite like him, but if he was a 280, 270-pound man, he'd be able to put the pressure on
that's what I mean.
impressively.
That little bit of extra application in his training, and just, I think he's just happy to take the paydays, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it, like,
But
Fair
do you
enough.
think? Do you think?
it's hard, like, we are not in his position. We don't know what he's like.
yeah. If I
day to
offered
day.
you £10 million to
I-
come sit here and do the podcast, I think you'd
Exactly.
be phoning it in.
Yeah,
I think it'd be.
I don't show up to the gym now when I like don't get paid. So if someone wants to,
Yeah. No, but Moses Itauma for that one. Do you think that's a fight that Bakole maybe has a bit more motivation for, in the sense of it's probably not going to be the biggest payday in the world compared to some of his other fights, and actually it represents a fighter that
I think
ranking
I
wise
think
is at a different stage of his career, and maybe that's enough to kick him up the arse and go, do you know what? If I lose this
I
is
think
embarrassing.
with this for Bakole, he's probably looking at that and feeling a little bit like, oh, they're disrespecting me. They think Itauma can easily beat me. And in a sense, it could be the sort of same way that they did Jared Anderson. They thought Jared Anderson was ready to fight Bakole, and then we're all here sitting down saying,
I called that actually.
well, me and you, because I went Bakole as well. I was going, what are they doing? They're looking at the paycheck. That's
Yeah.
what they were doing.
And he was.
Top rank, exactly what Anderson was doing. And if he argues different, then I don't believe
he
him.
hasn't. He came out and admitted it.
But for Bakole here, he's probably looking at that and thinking, hang on a minute, I'm used to be like the person that everyone wanted to avoid.
boogeyman.
You know, I don't think I'm at that level to be like a passing of the torch moment for Itauma. I'm not ready to take a fight against Itauma where everyone's going to predict him to absolutely steamroll through me. No way. And it's just, everyone's going to be looking back at that Ajagba fight. Did he win it? Was it a draw? Blah, blah, blah. Itauma, on the other hand, I think he's got a fight coming up in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
or
he's
a
fighting on the
week's
Josh
time.
Taylor
Yeah.
Estimate undercard.
Against a nobody. So if he gets through that, August time, put this on a decent card.
Or even on the undercard of...
I think
Usyk
July
Dubai.
19th is a bit too early for
be honest.
Bakole and his nutritionist and all that.
I think
I don't know. You got, what, 2.5 months? 10-week camp? That's a long time.
it's longer than what he would
How many
have done
McDonald's
before.
can I have in... Like,
What's that?
how many McDonald's and all that? Because that's where he was probably eating, wasn't he? He wasn't taking his life seriously.
Well, no, I don't know. Apparently, he's just insistent on eating Congolese food and food from back home, and he just doesn't. But either way, I think is that a fight you'd want to see ultimately?
yes.
I think Atoma's the next big heavyweight. I think he'd
Yeah,
flatten Bakole.
yeah.
I think he'd flatten him now.
I would be inclined to say Itauma on that basis, but equally, it has all the hallmarks of if Atoma's not really ready, really tight, really impressive, that Bakole could cause him issues. He's
Yeah,
he's a
I
good enough
understand that.
heavyweight that Moses, and it's I think in that sense, it's the perfect litmus test to say,
Yeah.
is Moses Itauma the fighter we all are saying he's going to be? And if he was able to, like you say, wipe out Martin
but it
Bakole,
goes back to that.
then you go, yes, he's the dog's bollocks.
I don't think there's a heavyweight now that Itauma would struggle massively against.
I agree. I think he'd give Usyk and Dubois both a good fight. I don't necessarily think he'd be able to beat them at this stage, but I think he'd give them both a good fight. And with the power he holds, he has every chance to beat anyone, really, because he just does hit that hard and he sets up the shots so
you
smartly.
hear people speak about him as well. Like, they've known about him for
Since he was like
ages.
14.
Like, he was sparring Dubois and like roughing him up.
Bakole was said he got an early night's sleep the night before he was meant to be sparring
Exactly,
a 15-year-old Moses Itauma, because the last time he sparred him, it was hard work. He was like, I need to get an early night tonight. I got Moses. And that's mental. That's a 15-year-old kid in his school uniform. I assume he took off his school uniform for the spar and he didn't insist on staying in it. But yeah, like half time. Skins versus jumpers or whatever it is. No, I think, yeah, it's a good fight, isn't it?
Yeah, and listen, I always go back to that Maris Vac fight with Itauma where everyone's like, oh, Vac's going to, he's durable and all that, he's tough. He's going to give Itauma rounds, which he needs. And what happened in that fight, and he just proves that Itauma, like Ben said, he is beyond that level, and he's at that level now where if there was like an interim title and this fight was for an interim title, you would feel confident in saying to Itauma, right, you're going to be fighting Bakole now. And Itauma's probably thinking,
Where is he
happy
currently
days.
ranked in heavyweight Itauma?
I don't know off the top of my head.
like
I know
just inside
Bakole's
top
like
20.
11th now, I think.
Top 15 maybe? Because has he won a...
He's won a couple,
ranking title, didn't he, in his last fight?
WBA International, I think it was, or something. He is ranked
13th.
48th in the heavyweight division according to BoxRec, but what do BoxRec know?
They don't know anything.
Whereas Bakole's now down at 15th, FA Jagborough at 14th, etc., etc.
Look at some of them names above him.
Yeah.
Michael Hunter and Itauma is a hell of a fight, mate.
He chins a hell of a lot of these fighters.
him.
You're just
Every
looking
single one
at looking from Martin Bakole down to where Itauma is. He beats every single one of them.
You wouldn't match from an opposition point of view Fraser Clark, Makhmadov,
Warlin could be a decent fight
Zianello.
for Itauma.
I don't think you struggle with anyone outside the top 10.
Jared Anderson,
Hell on, you're going too quick for my...
Richard Riakporhe,
Pulev was the talk for...
Hergovich, Dillian White,
Do you
Derek
only
Chisora,
think
Michael
it's
Hunter.
I think it's the top
Gassiev.
6 there.
How is Gassiev in the top 10 in the heavyweight division? I swear he lost.
I think the top 6 would be a really good fight. I think he gives AJ at the moment a really good run for his money. Joseph Parker, I think, would be probably a step too far for him at this stage, but a good fight.
Says a lot with Tyson
Cabiel
Fury
would
as
be
well.
a really interesting fight. Dubois would be a step too far, but a good fight. Usyk a step too far, but a good fight.
Tyson Fury said, I don't want to fight Itauma, no.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he openly admitted that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Obviously before all the...
Different
big
stages
fights,
of their career, of course. But as much as we could talk about this all day, there are other things going on, such as the WBC doing WBC things. Manny Pacquiao has been reinstated in the top 5 of the WBC rankings and will be fighting for a WBC title.
Hang on a minute. His last win was 6 years ago. Come on, let's get... The WBC's ignoring all that.
Don't
4
get me
years
wrong.
retired.
He is a phenomenal fighter. He was a phenomenal fighter.
Oh, he is, though. He's ranked number 5 in the WBC. Come
Well,
on.
precisely. It's
Jesus Christ.
the WBC. You've got all the different things. The WBO and the WBA, generally speaking, pretty well behaved. The IBF are very finicky, awkward, mandatories.
Yeah.
But actually, if all of the governing bodies were like that, we might not see as many undisputed title fights. But they're probably doing things properly. The WBC, when it comes to, making fights they make the biggest fights rather than the best fights for the titles. They put the size of your brand above maybe your ability somewhat, and then they just make funny belts for the sake of it.
They just want to market themselves, don't they? But
That's what they
there's
put as
plenty
their...
of big fights and fighters out there that can fight instead of bringing a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao who hasn't done anything in the sport in 6 years. It's just worrying. It's and the concern is he's either doing it for money or doing it because he can't give up boxing, both of which are just, I think, sad to see.
It's what they're sort of here to stop, isn't it? The governing bodies are there to stop fights like this being possible. Stop fighters and promoters being able to say, oh, do you know what? I fancy matching a 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao 4 years out of the ring against a world champ, because that'll be fun and that'll sell well. And the governing bodies are supposed to go, no, that's not how this works. You have to fight someone who is actually a boxer still and someone who has earned their rankings. But what the WBC are doing is they're allowing it to happen, and not only allowing it, they're proud of the fact that they're sanctioning it.
Well, they're going, show us the money. All right, then. You've paid that much. All right, you can go ahead.
It's just sad.
No one's going to offer us that much money to fight for a world title. Go ahead. Go. You can go fast track all of this. But, no, to come back and be ranked 5th in the world, I don't get... How can you, like, make an argument for the reasoning behind that? Like, the man hasn't won a fight in 6 years, I believe. Like we said, he's been out the ring for 4 years, retired. I think he's gone into politics over in the Philippines, if I remember from
Have you seen the
video
video of him fighting an exhibition like 18 months ago?
I don't think so. Was he bad, was he?
He's slow. Listen,
Like, to think he's going to fight a current world champion who is what? How old Barrios? 20...
He's in his, I think, early 20s.
Maybe early 30s.
But the thing
he's
is,
going to have 10 years.
what people forget is we remember all of these
It's crazy.
fighters. For example, I know we're going to talk Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. No one wanted
Just
to
don't
see
wanna
that
see
fight.
it.
No one wants to see a man that's been out of the ring, hasn't had boxing on their mind.
29.
Exactly. Yeah. Fucking hell, like.
Yeah,
Could be
it's
a
not a
kid.
good fight.
But
It's not a good fight.
Wasn't
I could-
Conor Benn calling for this fight?
Yes.
Barrios.
Well, that's the type of
So,
fight
but-
they should be making.
Literally. Top 4. He is
Like
4th in the WBC rankings.
Pacquiao's
Conor
a
Benn?
Yeah, I
great
think so.
fighter, great legend, but he had his time. And, like, what's most frustrating is, I can remember fucking where they were trying to set up Pacquiao and Mayweather for years, and that come way later than what it should have. But, like, yeah, it's not his time to be fighting now. At 46,
Nah.
the WBC should be bringing him in as, like, an ambassador. Not
Yeah.
No, I agree. They should be bringing him in ringside. Here you go, Manny. You
Yeah.
can watch these two fight. You know,
Yeah.
there's pointless you going in there. You've done your job in boxing. You know, you've created so many stories and great memories for us. And yeah, to come back and probably a legend like that, you would hope not to get battered. But you can only see it going one way.
Yeah,
Can't
It'd be
you?
funny though. He's gonna come in and win this fight.
And chin him and we look
Chin
really
him
daft. Yeah,
in
yeah.
one round as well.
Yeah, we will look daft, but well, we will maybe talk on that a little bit more when we get closer to it. Another one that we'll probably talk on a little bit more when we get closer to it, and that we've talked a lot on in the past. But Frank Warren has confirmed there are talks in place for Nick Paul versus Naya Inoue. Obviously, that'll be up at featherweight.
At Anfield.
In new ways coming to Liverpool. That's what I've heard.
To watch the football, replacing
Can you
Trent
do-
at right back, is he? I mean, I know he's a good fighter, but I
Get
can't
him in if he comes to Liverpool. won't he?
He's got a mean right foot on him.
He's
no,
taking Arnie Slot's job.
Can you do what you did for the Stoke thing that we did?
No, I ain't got the time. Maybe if you're lucky, I'll see how I feel. It's a good fight, isn't it? We've said it before. Nick Bull versus Naya Inoue is a very good fight, and at featherweight is probably as close as we'll get to Inoue having a shot at being beaten. It's a man who's got enough power that if he can catch Inoue a little bit, he could maybe cause him some problems. But ultimately, Naya Inoue still goes into that one the absolute favourite, and probably gives Nick Bull his first loss, and almost certainly gives him... probably gives Nick Bull his first stoppage loss, and almost certainly gives him his first loss.
I think, in a way, you said as well that this weight limit would be his peak
What, up to featherweight?
up to featherweight.
I don't think this fight happens, to be completely honest, because
I don't know.
he said that he will continue making super bantamweight until he can't make super bantamweight anymore. And I think he does still probably have the Akhmadaliev fight, the Junto Nakatani fight at super bantamweight
Yeah, I think
before he
those
thinks
two-
about moving up.
Those two come first, I think, don't they?
But I think what Frank Warren probably understands is the earlier you can get Inoue to move up, the better chance your brilliant featherweight has, because he won't be a more natural featherweight by that point. He's been very good at building up the muscle and building up the mass over a long period of time in order to, when he moves up, it's seamless. It doesn't feel like there's a difficulty. And if they are able to price him into doing it earlier, Ball stands more of a chance. But I'm not sure how much of a chance he actually stands.
Would you pick Inoue as a winner?
Yeah,
between
clear
them?
winner.
Comfortably. I wouldn't have to think about that. Could Nick Bull beat him? Of course, absolutely. Will he? Probably not, no.
I just think Inoue's too skilled, isn't he?
Too powerful as well.
Yeah. And I think
Those shots that he throws, especially when you watch him in Japan and you can hear him.
Yeah.
It's scary, especially
I think
at that weight.
Style-wise, I think as well, Nick Bull's quite a sort of, he jumps into his punches, he's powerful, he has that sort of Tank Davis, Mike Tyson-esque sort of short, stocky, powerful jumping through with the legs and stuff. And I think Inoue will be able to keep himself out of range and pick off his shots and put himself in awkward positions where Nick Bull won't be able to get hold of him with the footwork, the much, much superior footwork. And when you look at the way that TJ Dehaney was able to avoid issues with Nick Bull for a long period of time in that fight, I think Naoya Inoue will be able to do that tenfold.
Well, all Nick Bull needs to do is just kick him.
It could be a chance. It could be a chance. Little two for in the kneecaps. It probably is his best shot, a win, to be honest. If he can just hope that the referee misses it, it's quite hard to box with a fractured kneecap, I've heard. I can't obviously speak from experience.
You've had a fractured eye socket.
I have, and I can imagine it's quite hard to fight with that as well. But this is a good fight. Would you see it next, or do you think you'd rather see the Akhmadaliev fight and Nakatani
I think
fight first?
Akhmadaliev's
I think they've signed
I think
for
that's
that
more
fight.
or less confirmed.
I think that's in Riyadh.
And
this
Inoue
one
and
in-
Nakatani as well.
Are we
Imagine
saying?
that up in Japan.
Are we saying
chaos?
Akhmadaliev next?
Yeah.
Nakatani for his final
Potentially.
fight at super bantamweight,
And then finish.
and then Nick Bull at featherweight, and then go undisputed at featherweight. Hang up the gloves.
He'd be a 5-weight world champion at that point as well, wouldn't he?
Yeah, not bad. 5-weight world champ, 3-weight undisputed champ. Bosh.
Fair play.
Light work. Bosh. That's the first Bosh of the pod. How have we got one Bosh in a Johnny Fisher pod? That's shocking.
Bosh.
I think
Should we get a couple more? in?
Bosh.
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 Le Bosh.
It's going to be sad. Last
You can tell Sam's pushing for the half an hour mark.
Oh, we're clear past the half an hour point.
He's
And,
going for the 50-minute mark.
going to say Bosh for the next 50 minutes.
yeah, just get to the hour. No, on that note, we will pretty much wrap it up. Thank you all
Come on, Johnny Fisher.
for tuning in to the podcast, as always, to this obviously preview show and the review show early in the week. If you haven't already, check that one out. It was an interesting episode, I think. Next week, 2 episodes more coming, review and preview, live from Mallorca from me. I'm going to be on holiday with my feet up, but I'll still bring a podcast for you guys. And if that's not worth a subscribe or follow on Spotify, then I don't know what will. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Bash.
Bash.
You missed it.
Oh, well, I didn't know we were doing it. Bash.
Bash. Oh, fuck's sake.
Punches chance. Punches Chance Podcast.